Hello again. Today I'll be reviewing the Space Marine Devastator squad. I've already made a video, so I recommend you go and check that out to see what you get when you buy one. Devastator squads are core, non-Primaris, heavy support unit for the Space Marines. They can be armed with a variety of heavy weapons that can be geared more towards anti-infantry or anti-vehicle firepower. I'll go through the different weapons, then talk about some strategies you can use. This is the datasheet for the Devastators. It's exactly the same as the tactical squad, and they're 18 points each. Move 6, weapon skill, ballistic skill 3+, strength and toughness 4, 2 wounds, 1 attack, and leadership of 7. They've got a 3+ save, and the sergeant gets an extra leadership and attack. They're a heavy support choice. Their keywords are infantry and core, but they don't have the Primaris keyword. They've got pretty versatile weapons choices, and they can take on pretty much anything at range, be it infantry or vehicles. They also have a thing called an Armorium Cherub. It's an extra 5 points, and once per battle it immediately allows you to shoot with one of the weapons again. I'd definitely take this, it's clearly worth it. The sergeant in the squad's the same as a tactical squad sergeant, so 18 points and an extra pip of leadership and attacks. I've been through him in more detail in the last review video of the tactical squad, but just to refresh, he can replace his bolt gun with a combi weapon, melee weapon or pistol, and he can replace his bolt pistol with a pistol or melee weapon. I wouldn't recommend taking melee weapons on a sergeant in this squad because you'll want to be shooting, obviously. He's got the ability Signum, which allows him to choose one model in the unit each turn, and they've got a ballistic skill of 2+. This is really useful when combined with the Armorium Cherub, because for example you could get 4 multi-melter shots all hitting on 2s. So now I'll get on to the different heavy weapons that you can give the squad. Only 4 Devastators in the squad can be given a heavy weapon, it doesn't matter how many you have. So first I'll look at the anti-infantry weapons, and first up is the Heavy Bolter. It's 36-inch range, heavy 3, strength 5, -1 AP and 2 damage. This means it's effective at clearing things like Chaos Space Marines and Plague Marines and any other infantry with 2 wounds. Against 1 wound Horde infantry it's not as great, but against the weaker stuff it'll still do a lot of damage. Next is the Heavy Flamer, and this can only be taken by Deathwatch, Blood Angels and their successors. It's a range 12, heavy D6, strength 5, AP -1 and 1 damage, however it does automatically hit. Personally I wouldn't be taking this even if I was using a Blood Angels army, because the Devastator squad can be much better from a distance. And finally there are the frag missiles. These are from the missile launcher, and they're 48-inch range, heavy D6, strength 4, no AP and 1 damage, however it does have the blast keyword. The Heavy Bolter is 10 points, and the Heavy Flamer and frag missiles from the missile launcher are 15 points each. These are the anti-vehicle weapons you can give them. First off is the las cannon. This is range 48 inches, heavy 1, strength 9, AP -3 and D6 damage. The las cannon is really effective at picking off vehicles at long range, but against infantry it stands pretty much no chance. The multi-melter is probably the best anti-vehicle weapon in this list, however it's also the most expensive weapon you can give your Devastators at 20 points each. 24-inch range, heavy 2, strength 8, -4 AP and damage D6. However, at 12-inch range the damage is D6 +2, so that'll be enough to put some serious damage on a vehicle. Finally there are crack missiles from the missile launcher. They're also 48-inch range, heavy 1, strength 8, -3 AP and damage D6. This means it's just slightly less effective than the las cannon. However, the missile launcher does come with the frag missiles as well. All of these options cost 15 points except the multi-melter, which is 20. These are the final weapons you can give them. First off is the plasma cannon for 15 points. This is range 36 inches, heavy D3, strength 7, AP -3 and 1 damage. This has the blast keyword, so it's effective against both infantry hordes and vehicles. As well as that, you can overcharge the plasma cannon. Keeps the same range and type, however its strength goes up to 8 and damage goes up to 2. When you're firing it like this, however, if every time you roll an unmodified hit roll of a 1, the model that's firing it died. So if you're not in range of a captain or something that allows you to re-roll hit rolls of 1, I wouldn't be overcharging this that often unless you really need to. Next, there's the grav cannon. This is a 30-inch range, heavy 4, strength 5, AP -3 and 1 damage. I know it looks like a good anti-infantry weapon, and it probably is, but it's also effective against vehicles to some degree, which is why I put it here. It does 2 damage instead against models with a 3+ save. This means it'll be one-shotting Space Marines and doing a lot of damage to heavy vehicles like tanks. Here are a couple of strong loadouts you could use your Devastators with. First of all, can't make a video without mentioning it, getting 4 grav cannons and putting them in a drop pod. This allows them to be in range and turn 1, and with 4 Devastators, that's 16 2 damage shots against heavy infantry or vehicles. Now that's a serious amount of damage, and your opponent just can't ignore that. So they'll likely be trying to deploy their army in a weird way to, if you've bought grav cannon Devastators and drop pods. Next up, if you don't know what kind of army you'll be facing, plasma cannons are a fairly good compromise between anti-vehicle and anti-infantry. They've got the blast keyword, but they are also sufficiently high strength that they can take on vehicles easily. Next up, if you're going for a full anti-tank list in your Devastator squad, multi-melters are by far the best point for point, however they're shorter range than something like a las cannon. This means that if your opponent's playing conservatively and just camping in their deployment zone, you might not be able to fire the multi-melters. Next, we'll move on to the missile launchers, and these ones probably aren't the best weapon choice. They're quite expensive for what they do. They're by no means the best anti-infantry or anti-tank weapons, but if you really need to use them if you don't know what you're facing, they can be useful. If you're going for an anti-infantry list, I'd take the heavy bolters, because they're the cheapest option and they can still do a lot of damage to infantry and threaten light vehicles. These are some of the good synergies for the Devastator squad. Obviously a captain and lieutenant will allow you to re-roll ones for hit rolls and wound rolls respectively. If you're going to be overcharging with the plasma cannons, then a captain is pretty much necessary, so some of them don't die. Rhinos and Razorbacks are good for transport because Devastator squads aren't Primaris, so that you can get them closer quickly, especially if they're armed with a shorter range weapon like the multi-melter or heavy flamer, then you'll be able to get them up to the middle. Chaplains have the recitation of focus, which adds 1 to the hit roll. This is really useful, and in a game I would actually use this on Devastator squads quite often. The Librarian's Psychic Fortress gives them a 5+ invulnerable save. It's good, but I'd probably have other units I'd like to put this on before this. And finally, a Primaris Ancient, or a regular Ancient, will allow them to shoot with their ranged weapons when they die. It's useful if they've got something like a multi-melter and they're being shot at by a tank that's pretty close to them, and maybe they'll even be able to destroy it. So overall I'd give these guys a 7 out of 10. They're good for objective camping at the back. If you give them las cannons or missile launchers, then they can reach out and help with your army's fire support. They got very versatile firepower, Some problems are they're a bit weaker than a vehicle with the heavy armament, and they are pretty vulnerable to being caught in melee, but apart from that, they're really useful heavy support option for the Space Marines. Infantry, so weapons that do more damage to vehicles won't hurt them, but overall I'd definitely recommend having them in some armies. They won't fit in everyone, but they're pretty good. I'll leave links down to buy them in the description, and thanks for watching.